Leafs fam, hockey fam, what is up? This is the Leafs Conversation. I'm Norman James. Glad to have you aboard for this very special edition of the podcast. Our good friend from McKean's and Roto World, the one and only Gus Katsaros, standing by. He's going to drop some knowledge on us regarding the news out of 40 Bay today. Brandon Pridham taking over the assistant general manager's role under Kyle Dubas, appointed to the position after serving as the team's de facto capologist. How will Pridham and his particular set of expertise help Kyle Dubas and his plan to take the Leafs to the very next level? There's so much to talk about. We have little time to do it. Gus is ready to go. You're ready to go. I'm ready to go. What do you say? Let's Leafs Convo starting now. And here is our longtime friend of the show from McKean's and Roto World, the one and only Gus Katsaros. Gus, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. You make the Leafs Conversation that much better every time you appear on a podcast. So we want to show plenty of gratitude to you, and I will do that by asking you some really interesting questions because you are among the experts, my friend. So Brandon Pridham, out of the shadows, sort of, into the spotlight, sort of, named assistant general manager to Kyle Dubas, helping to run the Toronto Maple Leafs, moving them forward past the Lou Lamoriello era. How does Brandon Pridham, a numbers guy, but somebody who's done a lot of his mastery work behind the scenes, step into the limelight, so to speak, and help this team move forward with his particular set of expertise?
Well, I mean, you said that he's known as a numbers guy and a capologist and somebody that's dealt with past contracts and understands the little nuances of the collective bargaining agreement. But to me, I think he comes with a background where he had to have a lot of contact with a lot of different people across the entire league. So on top of all the good stuff that comes out of knowing the nuances and the itty bitty of the collective bargaining agreement at such a granular level, the fact that he has such a broad reach across the league, I think, is most important. The ability to gather and understand the information and situations that are happening across the league is sometimes, I think, really an underrated or an understated aspect of what executives essentially bring. So you have Kyle Dubas that might necessarily not necessarily have the experience, but here you got a guy that has contacts that are just as good as the Mark Hunters that just left, the Lou Lamoriellos that might have just left.
Yeah,
so
we've talked about that, Gus, on previous editions of the Leafs Convo, creating a team. You're building a team on the ice, but you're also building a team above the ice. And while Mark Hunter and Lou Lamoriello have gone on to maybe greener pastures, we don't know. But now it's Kyle Dubas' turn to build his own network of executives and hockey minds and hockey people. And here we go. Brandon Pridham, you like this elevation from where he was before to assistant general manager, Gus, and obviously somebody like Kyle Dubas needs people of sage and wise stature to lean on. And would you look at somebody like Brandon Pridham perhaps being his right-hand man?
Well, I mean, I don't really know the guy on a personal level. From my understanding, the way that he's conducted himself in terms of the way that the Leafs have been able to sign and retain players and even target them at specific levels, he's done a decent enough job. There's been, I think for the most part, you can be encouraged by the type of groundwork and the foundation that he's laid so far. And to make, or at least give the impression that given more responsibility, he can, A, handle the responsibility and be very productive with any tasks that he's afforded to by the general manager. Yeah, sometimes I think that, we look at for a big name and the expectation is greater because of the big name. Sometimes I think that what we don't understand that there's a generational flip. So you'll see a lot of people that get into let's just say greater positions or higher up positions. And then there's some that are weeded out. We're at the point, I think, where we're looking at a lot of positions where they're going to be weeded out to people that are either more qualified, better connected, whatever the case is. And this might be one of those instances where you're starting to bring in people that may not necessarily have been part of that old boys network or the part of the NHL that we are most familiar with, but can still contribute because they've done enough work in the background to be able to justify being in the position that they're in.
This is the Leafs Convo. Norman James, along with one of our good friends, Gus Katsaros from McKean's and Roto World. So we're looking at a bit of a cultural shift right now in the NHL. It's underway. I don't know where we are within that process. Also, a generational shift. We're seeing that happen right now in the boardroom with the Maple Leafs. Is there an ideological shift happening as well, Gus? Or at the end of the day, is this just a younger, fresher, more vibrant crew coming in to do the same thing that their predecessors did?
I'll tell you, just from a position of tactics alone and skill level and the way that players are being integrated into the NHL on a quicker level, quicker basis, they're more than ready to contribute at a younger age. Things are changing at the very fundamental levels of hockey, to the degree that what we're seeing in the boardrooms are just a ripple effect of those fundamental changes. Vegas is a great example here. They're playing a new age defense the way that teams should be playing defense. When they don't have the puck, they try to get the puck back. So these and other ideas similar to that, you know what I mean? Kind of throwing away some of the old chains or the old styles that we expected to utilize to be successful, they're being blown out of the water. We're seeing it on the ice. I just can't see the ripples. The ripples are going to be just extended all the way out throughout the entire league, through the boardrooms. It's pretty much inevitable.
Mm-hmm. This is the Leafs Convo. Norman James with Gus Katsaros. What can the Maple Leafs learn from the Vegas Golden Knights right now? Gerard Gallant's style, his relationship with the players. You mentioned that the whole defensive concept is once you don't have the puck, go get it back. What can the Leafs learn right now from the Vegas Golden Knights, who are going on to the Stanley Cup final in their first year of existence, Gus?
Nothing. What the Vegas Knights Golden Knights are doing now, the Leafs were doing 2 years ago. Okay. The fact that they got away with that and tried to integrate a bit more of a passive defensive style is what did them in this season. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had a good regular season, but you can mask those numbers over 82 games. When it came down to it, Boston understood where they played, where they excelled. They shut them down, and they shut them down with fair ease. The Leafs were never really dominant in that series. So to me, what the Leafs really should understand is they already had a style that was very conducive to being very successful. We got an expansion team with a bunch of misfits that are proving that point exactly.
The Leafs Convo started with Mike and Norm just a few years ago, but it's you who will take this podcast into the future thanks to your amazing support. We'd like to offer special recognition to Dr. Faisal Rahman of London, Ontario, for his dedication, commitment, and contribution to this podcast. Dr. Rahman has been a major backer of sports projects, ideas, and innovations throughout London and beyond. His involvement in helping the growth of the Leafs Convo is not only appreciated, but a true honor. Thank you, Dr. Faisal Rahman. Gus, your knowledge is incredible. Do you live in a cave on Dagobah?
I wish.
You are the oracle, the Yoda of hockey knowledge, especially on social media. That's why we love you, Gus. That's why, again, I try to hitch my wagon to Mike Augello's Rising Star. And you know what? I think I'm going to rent another wagon and hitch it to your star, because that's essentially what I'm trying to do. This is the Leafs Conversation. Norman James, along with one of our special friends, Gus Katsaros of McKean's and Roto World. I won't keep you for much longer, Gus, because I know your time is precious and this is family time for you. But so Brandon Pridham, a capologist, a guy who has a particular set of expertise and is ready to expand it now in a role that has been granted to him by Kyle Dubas, a new, fresh way of thinking at the top of the Maple Leafs proverbial ladder. I mean, there's one person above Kyle Dubas, and that's Brendan Shanahan. And at the end of the day, you know as well as I do, that man will reap the benefits or the real disastrous extreme, one way or the other, whether this team wins a Stanley Cup or it all falls flat. But I digress. The point I'm trying to make is Brandon Pridham, he understands how to manipulate numbers. And I'm not saying doing anything illegally, but to look ahead and try to find ways to fit players and their contracts into the system that the Leafs are trying to employ. How does Brandon Pridham's abilities affect what Kyle Dubas might be able to entertain or offer with a free agent known as John Tavares here July 1st, if he makes it that far?
Well, I mean, we're talking about a generational talent here, right? Oh, I don't know. Is Tavares really generational? I wouldn't say that, but he's definitely a star.
It's close. Yeah.
I mean, we could probably even say superstar. So
sure,
if you're gonna bring in a superstar, you pay for the superstar. So it's not like Pridham's got some magic ace or something up his sleeve that says, Tavares, you're only really worth $5.5 million.
Yeah.
No, Tavares is going to get his $10 million or whatever it is, and if the Leafs are willing to do that, which by the way, I'm fully for. I have no problem with Tavares, full boat. I would figure that if there's any kind of relationship with Bill or something between him and his agent, they might be able to get something done. But I don't think that there's any magic 8-ball or anything that Pridham could do to bring in John Tavares. The best thing he does is give Kyle a budget that he knows that he can work with, and then fit your programs around that kind of budget. So I think that that's the plus that he brings to the Leafs specifically.
How much would you credit Kyle Dubas for building what we're seeing with the Marlies right now?
Everything. Everything. It's all Kyle Dubas. It's not that he's the one that built everything. I mean, player acquisition is not one person and one person alone. He might be the guy that rubber stamped it, but he may not have even made the decision. But the reality is it's his team. It's his concoction. It's his makeup. This is all Dubas based on the greater level plan, bringing in the players, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not like he went rogue and tried to design some Frankenstein Marlies team. This is the Leafs. This is why they're the baby Leafs. So I think that it's a positive sign. It's a great thing to see continued success, even though last year they didn't necessarily win anything. And, there's no guarantee that they win anything this year. But the fact that they're competitive on a consistent basis, that alone is a good sign for even the parent club in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Gus, one final question for you. Is there an expectation we're going to see Kyle Dubas having a dependency on his baby, the Marlies, as he fills spots for his new toy in the Toronto Maple Leafs? And is there any, maybe just a little precaution or some slight concern that he may rely heavily on filling holes that need to be filled at the NHL level with players that he's relied on already at the AHL level, as opposed to, entertaining ideas and possibilities and potential transactions, signings on the free agent market or through NHL trades?
Well, I mean, your farm system should be just that, something where it springboards a prospect to an everyday NHLer. At the same time, you get to positions where the prospect cupboard is kind of bare and you have a bunch of veterans on the team just because you have everything loaded up at the top. There are other times where, there's a rebuilding club and you have more than an abundance of talent on that farm team that you can kind of shuffle back and forth based on their contractual situation. So it's good to have flexibility with your farm club. I think the fact that Dubas has actually tied his hands into the AHL and kind of understands a little bit of how that league works, and especially the interplay between not just players and between the A and the NHL level, but management and people and the way that business is conducted. That, I think, is a very important learning experience that a lot of GMs probably never really had. So it's a nice plus to see they have a funnel of players coming through a developmental system, and it's all under the guise of the guy that's actually looking after the bigger picture now.
With Kyle Dubas, he's considered the boy wonder. He's an analytics guru. He's an old soul. He's ahead of his time. He's all of these things, and he may just turn out to be that and more. At the end of the day, Gus, go and contribute. Go and help build this team into a Stanley Cup champion. That's all I really care about. Thanks so much for your time, my friend. Have a good one.
My pleasure. Thank you, dude. Bye.
Gus Katsaros, the Yoda of hockey analytics. He doesn't look the part, but he sure plays the part. Thank you for being a part of this special edition podcast. Join our YouTube channel movement right now if you haven't already. Subscribe to the page. We need lots of subscribers. We are gaining subscribers literally by the hour. My phone is blowing up real good. And really, the fact that you guys are subscribing and I'm getting all these notifications is basically the only reason I feel like I have any relevance in this world. So thank you very much for that. Also, at the Leafs Convo, at I Am Sports Heart on Twitter. At me if you have any questions for myself or Mike Augello. We will mix in your questions and, of course, the answers to those questions on a future edition of the Maple Leafs Convo. For Gus Katsaros and Mike Augello, who's somewhere covering the Marlies, I'm Norman James. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.